name is Veronica Nkechi Eze.
Charles Abana.
My name is Professor Martins Emeje.
Professor Sylvester Odion Akaine.
Keep
watching SOUQ
News TV.
The best news channel online.
It's elevating, it's enlightening, it's educating.
Muhammad Ali found his root in Africa. Rumble in the jungle. I swear the king is humble. Jesse Jackson, O.J. Simpson, this is black history. Andrew Young visit Africa in the late 60s. Legend, Bob Marley make the life different. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are big names. They fought for black Americans in the old days. We need same revolution in our own ways. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Mr. Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre and Eddie Murphy. American prosperity ain't complete with African poverty. It's legendary Idris Abdul Karim, and you are on to SOUQ News. You don't touch that dial.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enuowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with a daily service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, SOUQ Enlightenment. In the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress, welcome to SOUQ News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, SOUQ News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. SOUQ News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, SOUQ News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. SOUQ News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions. Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an armed forces remembrance cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Markets, SOUQ Enlightenment.
Shout out to SOUQ News.
Shout out to SOUQ News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching SOUQ News.
Shout out to SOUQ News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching SOUQ News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching SOUQ News.
Keep watching SOUQ News.
Keep watching SOUQ News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to SOUQ News for your news requirements.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked to CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street.
Hello and welcome to SOUQ Pulse. We're here, and today's discussion is going to concern not just only you, me, but African countries, African nations, and we look at how can we develop through what we are going to talk about today. But hey, you know, it's SOUQ Pulse, where we deliberate, where we look at policies coming from nations, coming from government, and we'll ask direct questions. How are those particular policies affecting businesses within the borders of those nations? Policies in some other countries, how are they affecting business in other countries? Because, hey, there is no one living in isolation. We do business with each other. Then when we talk about international organizations, donor agencies, international banks, development banks, loans being given, those that are taking it, how is it making policies work, both from those that are giving the loans and those that are collecting it? How is it making businesses work, both from those that are giving and those that are collecting? The money is collected, how they've been spent. We look at Asia, we look at Europe, we look at Africa, and we say this race, who is really in it for it? It's SOUQ Pulse. When we come back, I'll get to introduce our guest and also the topic we're talking about today, and we will dive right into it. My name is Chuks, John Rogers Chuks. Welcome to SOUQ Pulse. We'll be right back.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godio Didi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
SOUQ News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to SOUQ News.
So I'm happy that SOUQ TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the SOUQ News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think SOUQ News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and SOUQ News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching SOUQ News.
Keep watching SOUQ News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching SOUQ News.
Welcome back. It's SOUQ Pulse, and today we are looking at technology. In this light, technology transfer, national technology transfer, not just transfer between companies and companies. But we're looking at national technology transfer. Is it ever devoid of conflict? Is it always peaceful? Yes, you heard me. And that particular breath I took, I hope you also tried taking that with me. Now we are looking at this, from this side of it. We know that technology transfer is bringing innovations, bringing new technologies, bringing everything that has come out from research down to product, to the marketplace, bringing it to the marketplace. Both the skills, both the technology, both the people, both the product. Now, for countries to grow, countries have to be innovative. For innovation to happen, research needs to be done. New products need to come to the market. New ways of doing things. New machines need to come to the market. Be it in agriculture, be it in any sector, be it in weapons. Now, countries try to get ahead of others, or countries try to get businesses done. Countries carve a niche and play in that particular place, be it in communication, information, IT. Over the years, we've seen this particular thing play out across the globe. Whoever is leading in one particular space has a major share of that business, a major share of that production, a major share of that product. We've gone past the arms race. We've gone past the race to go to the moon. Right now, okay, space to go to Mars. Let's keep that aside. But right now, information technology, faster machines, AI, local problems, solution for local problems. Now, let's ask ourselves this direct question. Is Africa in this play? Technology transfer, is it ever without conflict? I have a guest to help me do justice to this particular topic today. So please join me as I welcome Mr. Sam, who happens to be the director of the Center for Public Strategy. Sir, you're welcome.
Good afternoon.
You're welcome. You're welcome, sir. We missed you like for 2 days.
My pleasure to be here.
You're
again.
welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Now, sir, you know how we always do here. We always start from our topic. Technology transfer, national technology transfer. However you want to, I know you coin how you transfer the transfer, but now let's ask ourselves, is it ever without, is it devoid of conflict?
I think we should not look at it from the perspective of conflict.
Okay.
Let's put the concept of technology transfer in perspective so that we're able to look at the issues dispassionately and find a way, when we talk about technology transfer, devoid of indigenous technology, I'm sure that we're going to look at that as well. So technology transfer, simply put, means movement of data, technology innovation, and some other creativity that are driven by technology from one location to another location. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, technology transfer again has to do with.
Let me bring why out we are saying conflict. When you say from one location to another location, from one owner in one location to a different owner in another location.
No, we'll get into that. It's always good to lay a broad background when you're discussing issues that are a bit technical, so that the viewers can understand, because when you look at the concept of technology transfer, it's seen from two perspectives. Movement of data, technology evolution from one geographic boundary to another. On the other hand, technology transfer means transferring technology into product development that you put into the marketplace.
From research
from research finding to research to the marketplace. So once you understand those perspectives, then we'll be able to deal with the issues, whether moving technology across boundaries are devoid of conflict, or more often than not, you have a conflict in terms of when you move data from one location to the other.
Okay, thank you very much. Now let's go back to your definition. Now, if we look at the second part of your definition, from research or from lab to market, then we are looking at invention, we are looking at disclosure, assessment, marketing, licensing, then marketplace, product, end product. Somebody somewhere is putting money down, and somebody somewhere is seeing all this process done. Now let's now go to the second part. No, the first part, which is the one that concerns us here in Africa. Now we have problem that we need to solve. Okay, let's take, for example, pharmaceuticals. A big pharma company somewhere in outside Africa now brings this product here. First of all, they don't want you or the competition to have the formula to that product. But the market is here. The people dying are here. Typical example, vaccines. During COVID, a lot of the research that went into vaccines, the ones that were working, till date, Africa don't have it. So if we say it's vaccines paid for, why don't you make it open? That is where we're not going there. But now let's now look at typical technology. Let's look at countries that have had conflict over the years. Also remember that even between companies and companies, they still have issues. As in where somebody goes beyond and overrides someone's patent, be that directly or indirectly. There are some words we'll use, not now, maybe we'll get to use them later. Now let's talk about countries. China, US. Over the years, US has always accused China of stealing patent intellectual property rights. Over the years. Whether that is true, they have to prove it for us to see. But one thing we know, that China is advancing. Over the years, we've also seen where technology, information technology, 5G, there was a serious scramble for it. US did not want US companies or people signing onto some particular product, I'm not mentioning the names, on the 5G. They wanted them to use those made in the US. Now, where can Africa start playing? Are we looking at developing our own? Or for those that are here, having a way of getting it?
Chuks, this is a very tricky question, but what is key is that sometimes technology is not transferred willfully. Those who are players in specific sector, maybe you're talking about technology transfer in agriculture, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing. But those who have the privilege of working in those advanced driven technology environment are able to copy some of those technologies are intellectual property that belong to some patent owner or some trade secrets that were unique to certain companies or countries. But those who were in those environments, more often than not, has always moved with those intellectual property to other boundaries where they are able to put those technologies on the table for the development of that particular country. But the issue of international controversy, international politics, particularly with the US and China, will continue to be there. But I do know for sure that if you are not accused of theft in terms of technology, there are people who will be the carrier as long as they don't open up trade secrets, trade agreement, some patent right, and they're able to find a way to copy and imitate that technology and transfer it into some deliverable in a particular country, then you can say technology is transfer. But when you talk about willful transfer of technology, there's always been a controversy around willful transfer of technology. Even if you have agreements, if you have a transfer right, if you have disclosure clause in some of those patents that belong to some companies or some countries.
Okay, now let's dive deep and play it the way some other countries are playing it. For over time, a lot of manufacturers in the West went to China and established industries. Now, these industries, with whatever percentage was owned by the West, that is another kettle of fish. But over time, we've seen where China has been able to replicate this product in China. We've seen that. Whether the research came from them or it didn't come from them, that is still another kettle of fish. Now we have some of these companies in Africa. Or if we don't have some of these companies, we have majority of this product in Africa. At what point in time can we start emulating the Chinese model and say establish those companies here, and Africa can start looking for how to get those things done here?
Not necessarily by establishing those companies. We want those companies here, but what can happen is that the intellectual capacity or the intellectual capital or intellectual property is some kind of property that you can move willfully to some other country. So the point, if I get you correctly, is the ability of those who imbibe technology, they're able to take that technology in, and they're able to move with that technology to their own national boundary, and those technology come into play when they deploy them into some industry within their own country. And China, in particular, have done well in that regard. Being a smart people, they are able to look at those technologies, work in some factories, some manufacturing practices, the intellectual capacity to be able to replay and get those things away and find a way to replicate those technology in their country for their development. I don't really think anything is bad. When you talk about creativity and innovation, it has to do with the human mind. So your capacity to be able to carry knowledge, abilities, and some skills to a new climb, I don't think there's anything that is legally wrong. So for us as Africa to play in those directions, when we have opportunity in terms of manufacturing practices, in terms of data, in terms of technology innovation that are not peculiar to Africa, and when they have opportunity to go out and they are exposed to those technology, they can bring those concepts. And in terms of technology transfer, there's what you call imitation, which you can take in and try to improve on that imitation over a period of time, and you can catch up with innovation and creativity, which can impart on your people.
What is stopping Africa? There are certain words you use when we are talking about the Chinese model. I just kept quiet and didn't want to stop you. Smart people, one of them.
Yes, they are.
Good.
They're smart.
Africans, are we not smart?
We are smart, but
okay.
The challenge we have here, before you proceed for the...
Can I
no, just a moment,
I
need to lay this bare. Do we have a deliberate policy as a continent that encourage people to be innovative, and when they get those technology in terms of the intellectual capacity, they transfer them home? Where are the incubating center that can help to translate this technology that is being transferred to the environment to be sustained? Those countries that you talked about had a deliberate policy, state policy, where you take innovation from another place, and when you come back home, there's already a space for you to express yourself in terms of those innovations.
Are you trying to say that right now we don't see this as a problem?
It's a challenge.
No, we don't. It has gone beyond the challenge. So
No,
we
it's a
don't see
challenge.
this as a problem.
No, it's a
So
challenge. So the point I'm trying to make here,
our
Chuks,
outlook to this is a challenge, or we not see
no,
it.
it's a challenge that you want to innovate. Therefore, if you must innovate and catch up with new technologies, then those who have the intellectual capacity to be able to get those technologies from elsewhere, and when they move into your own client, there should be an environment, an enabling environment that will sustain the transfer of those technology for local industry or for local use. But when you don't have those encouragement to be able to get those who have that endowment from other places, it becomes a major challenge.
Okay, in 2020, a certain security chief said the US was losing about 500 million on intellectual property rights. In quote, stealing of technology to China. Now, how he wants to substantiate that, only him and his agency knows. But at this point in time, I ask again, where China stands right now, whether they did, whether they did not, is it not enough for African countries to say, hey, let's wake up and start doing something? We can't keep being a dumping ground, a market-only kind of place for technologies coming from outside, using us as market, from IT to medical to agriculture to every sector. Where can we start? Where can we play?
First, we need to clarify the conspiracy between China and America in terms of the mutual suspicion of whether there's a technology theft or whether technology imitation, whether willful transfer of technology is a different board game for this conversation. But what is key, the kind of environment that China has created for her people to bring in technology from elsewhere, and that environment that is conducive for this technology to come in, African country should try to see how the Chinese model of taking technology from elsewhere, irrespective of whether they are accused of technology theft or not, African government must equally have a deliberate policy framework in place where the best and the brightest in terms of intellectual capacity and intellectual capital and property, as the case may be, should be encouraged to come home with those technology. And when we talk about technology transfer, there's something that we often miss, where our social engineering is driven by Western imperative or Western imperialism or neo-colonial mindset that has continued to determine the way we behave in Africa. We equally have indigenous technology that we must exploit as a people.
Okay, now coming to this particular line you just brought up. Yes. Now, when you say we equally have indigenous technology.
Yes,
I
indeed.
agree. At this point in time, where is our indigenous technology? At what point are we deploying? At what point are we developing it?
Yes, as a collective or as a continental body, Africa and the African Union must find a way to go back to some indigenous technologies that we're endowed with here, some equally at the research table. We need to find a way of transiting those indigenous technology into manufacturing practice, pharmaceuticals, and the rest. I read a few days in the social media platform of one of the guy who was an innovative genius during the Nigerian Civil War, who made some conversion using some palm produce products that he developed as aviation fuel for flying their war aircraft. That technology is an indigenous technology, but because of the socio-political consideration of how things are done in our country, those kind of technologies are not encouraged. So the point I'm making, technology transfer is good, but we equally have our indigenous technology that can play from agriculture to pharmaceuticals to automobile and others. So we need to encourage those indigenous technology, indigenous knowledge that can equally help us. And you know, China, they have used Mandarin language in trying to take some of this technology. So when you're even accusing them with the theft of technology, you cannot find them in the common language that we've been colonized with over a period of time. They have their indigenous way of thinking, and this indigenous way of thinking has equally helped. They teach STEM in Mandarin. The computations in terms of science and technology and mathematics are driven in Mandarin. So if that kind of indigenous practice has aided China, I can't be bothered about the international conspiracy from America, always accusing China of technology theft. And I'm sure that China, truly speaking, has overtaken the United States of America in terms of technology, whether manufacturing, whatever area that you can think about. So this kind of international politics must not be encouraged.
Okay, now let's go back to indigenous technology. Is it possible for Africa, African states, African countries to say, okay, good, since we are finding it difficult to, as a state or as one, encourage some specific technology from different locations, can we say, okay, every location grow at your pace, move at your pace, develop at your pace, then bring to the center?
No, we're already developing at our pace, but the level
for some of these technologies you just mentioned,
yes,
we've seen different cases where, I didn't want to go there right now, we've seen different cases where a lot of technologies have been developed in local places, but they didn't get the answer or the response they deserve until something pushes from outside Africa. And at the end of the day, those particular people and their research gets lost outside.
Yes, that's why I said we must encourage our own indigenous technology.
How?
No, the government has to put an enabling environment
Can we put a name to this enabling environment?
No, enabling environment means you create a local industry that supports indigenous technology, whether they are in pharmaceutical, whether they are in core manufacturing, whether they are food and beverages, whether it's in terms of agricultural value chain, whatever sector. And every sector in modern science has shown that technology is either stolen, either imitated, or either taken by the very smart one that has the intellectual capacity to take those things out of those environments and go and replicate them in their environment, their local environment. So the encouragement at a continental level is that we must put an enabling environment, which I mentioned earlier. Specific industry must be encouraged to consume the indigenous technology. Over a period of time, those technologies will improve upon them and begin to sustain our own type of technology innovation that will be sustainable for African development.
Okay, now let's go to this particular side of it. Some years back, like 5-8 years ago, there was this particular young man somewhere in the eastern part of Nigeria that developed the tricycle. Well, his development was a tricycle on solar, constant solar, not just battery charged solar. Now he went ahead to develop it to the extent that he could multiply, he could go public. For 5, 6, 7 years, he didn't get any form of investment into that particular research and invention of his until a body outside this country came and invested in it. Now, the sad part is they don't use that kind of mobility where they are. So what have they done? They have put their money, invested in it, developed it, making the profit, and coming to sell it back to us. So at what point should we start saying regions develop on your own and take responsibility if the entire nation cannot take responsibility? Because we keep losing people like this every time, every time.
Chuks earlier had mentioned that one of the critical challenges in Africa, Nigeria in particular, is that the space for intellectual development is not encouraged. And what I try to call an enabling environment, and you said I should be specific, and I mentioned
those enabling environments is always ambiguous.
Local industry. And if you don't support your own, it's difficult for an outsider to support. Beyond that, and one of the major challenges of neoliberalism is that the West often find a way to stifle development in some other area so that their technology will always be superior. So they don't mind.
Then for those areas that is happening,
they don't mind paying off certain people to find a way to distort those processes. But that is not my major concern. The point here that we're trying to make is that once we have some kind of innovative or creativity, innovation rather, in an environment that is uniquely novel, uniquely a kind of a startup point that will change the narrative in terms of development, then the point is that the government agencies should be able to absorb those people. And even industries, local industries should be encouraged to find a way to get those people into their processes so that they can impart creativity and innovation in specific sector. Or to be able to encourage that, nothing will dramatically change within Africa.
Okay, we're on SOUQ Pulse, live on SOUQ News, and we are looking at technology transfer between nations. And we're asking ourselves this direct question: can it be peaceful? Like, is it devoid of conflict? We are looking at Africa. We've seen this play out in several other climes. We've seen it play out amongst companies, even companies within the same state, the same country. Everyone has and wants to be on top. Everyone wants to go to the market and make those profits, deliver those products, those inventions. That's what we're talking about. We're going on a break, and we'll be right back. Mr. Sam is still here. Don't go anywhere.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market, located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an Armed Forces Remembrance Cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination, Idumota Market.
Welcome back to SOUQ Pulse. We're here and we're still discussing technology transfer. National technology transfer, is it always peaceful? One thing has been established. You either buy, and that depends on what they want to sell to you, how they want to sell to you, at what point and where they want to stop what they are going to transfer and sell to you. Or you learn, you duplicate it, as Mr. Sam will say, and make it your own. or you steal it, then that depends on the judgment between you and your maker at the end of the day, but as long as you're moving forward. Now, sir, let's go somewhere. We have a lot of tertiary institutions. We have a lot of research institutes in Africa. Where and what is coming from these places? Have we utilized the research coming from these places?
Regrettably, Chuks, some of the research from the specialized research centers, research institutions, universities, polytechnic, colleges of agriculture, and even colleges of education, more often than not, some of these research findings have not been able to find their way into the marketplace. The challenge here, again, is the relationship between the government and the ivory towers, as you might call them, or research center, between that and the manufacturing sector. So there are critical gaps between research finding, ability to take research from research centers into industry as be a major problem. Again, if you look at it deeply, it's equally a failure of government not to focus on your own research finding, that some people within your environment has made some research about. And what do you do with this research? After patenting this research, you should be able to bring them into industry to improve on national productivity. But that has not been the case. But then you have universities and research centers that are not based in Africa, that do some research in Africa, and some of those research are taken from Africa and are given to industry elsewhere. The Oxford University in the UK, for example, has technology and development research center where you have people from master degree level to PhD from the Commonwealth countries that have done very unique breakthroughs in terms of ICT, in terms of technology in agriculture, pharmaceuticals. But these research findings are used elsewhere. So the challenge, like I mentioned earlier, to what extent can the government bridge the gap that exists between institutions and the users of those findings in industry? So to be able to clear off that bottleneck or the bump on the way to development, then the challenge of technology, whether it's local transfer, whether it's indigenous, will become a major challenge in Africa.
Okay, so from your take, we don't have issue with the brains in Africa?
No, we have the brain. The intellectual capacities are there.
Now, let's push this a bit. We have a case, it's irregular, it's right here with us. We have countries, we have organizations, all from the West, majorly, giving grants on yearly basis to several African institutions, to several African development institutes, yearly basis, taking, be it students or professors or scientists, and giving them one grant or the other, or offering them one scholarship or the other. And at the end of the project, no matter how long it is, those particular research is handed over to where those grants came from. And we have seen over time products that are groundbreaking come out of this particular research. And all what they get is a name, a reference. Where can Africa start playing, whereby any of this research coming out of Africa, Africa has a say in them, not just whoever is sponsoring or whoever is dropping the grant?
It's not about the say. Like you said, some of these grants come from elsewhere. Those grants are often tied with some conspiracy. I don't want to delve into that for now, so I will stick to your questions. So some of those grants that are brought in here for research and development are equally done to cannibalize some of our innovation. But then we won't go into the politics of that, but I will stick myself to a point where if people can bring grants to support your research and development, and you don't make much investment in that sector. So if you want to sustain that kind of development as well, you need to fund those research centers. You must aggregate the research finding. You must look for space for those findings to be put in use, so that those intellectual capital that you have here will not be stolen, if I can use the word that the United States of America have always often accused China of. Then African countries must wake up to the stark reality that nobody can give you technology willfully, so you must find a way to support your own indigenous technology. If you must transfer those technology from other places, you must pay for it. You must create the environment for people to express themselves in creativity and innovation.
Okay, now let's still go back to these research institutions. Let's go back to, now, what policy do you think government can initiate? Not just policy. What can government start doing to break that vacuum between the research coming out, research findings, results, and industry getting their hands on it and using it? Indigenous industries, not just industries that are still not from here, that repatriate all funds outside Africa. What can government start doing to break that vacuum?
I think the first thing the government needs to do, first and foremost, is to open up the space between research, development institutes, and industry. So there must be a kind of partnership and collaboration between research centers and the consumers of research findings. So there must be a deliberate policy. For example, if you're talking about agriculture in terms of technology transfer, what kind of innovations and creativity that has taken place, particularly with research centers that are tied to agricultural development. So you need to use, if it's improved seedling, you must find a way to deploy those improved seedling into the marketplace. If it's in terms of machines, manufacturing, designs and all that, you must find a way to patent those designs and use them locally. If you talk about pharmaceutical, the other day you had the gentleman, the professor in natural medicine, what the West always call alternative. I think natural and is indigenous to Africa. So if there are innovations there, you find a way to sustain the pharmaceutical industry to consume some of the natural medicines that are produced here, rather than looking at some of the medicines that you now classify as orthodox medicine that are even alien to our own environment. And India in particular has looked at that innovation and that space of being very resourceful in terms of STEM. And if you look at the bulk of drugs that we consume in Africa, across Africa, over 80% of the drugs that we consume are manufactured in India, even where you have some kind of collaboration where those drugs are manufactured in India for a particular company. All you just see is just the label on the branding of that product. So until we're able to come to terms with research institutions, consumptions of research, and the support. So the policy framework must encourage research centers, institutions to work harmoniously in terms of collaboration, in terms of partnership, that we can now compete with other countries in terms of technology transfer.
Do you ever see Africa being a knowledge-based economy?
Yes, because Africans already are carriers of those knowledge, intellectual capital all over the world. So we cannot say we are excluded. But to what extent this intellectual property that Africans are endowed with, that are making exploits elsewhere, or to Africa as a continent begin to look inward, find a way to attract the brightest and the best in terms of human capital back to Africa and create that same enabling environment that I mentioned by opening up the local space for them to operate, or you create centers of excellence, whether you are talking about neurosurgery, whether you are talking about good manufacturing practices, whether you are talking about agricultural innovation, whatever sector within the African economy, we have the intellectual capital all over the world. And so we're already playing in the knowledge economy. To what extent can we translate that knowledge into development back home in Nigeria?
To what extent can we translate that development back?
That is a challenge.
Are we translating back? What about the ones that are here? What about the ones?
No, the point I'm making,
we have
the ones we have here, we have here are going away as a result of a brain drain.
So for those we have here now,
for us to be able to sustain them, the concept of brain gain, whether they are those intellectual capital or property are domiciled in Nigeria, we must find a way to use those knowledge for our own development. Then those who are outside, who have shown a lot of innovation in terms of contributing to intellectual development elsewhere, must be encouraged back home to be able to use those technologies here. And the case in point is that of Professor Bat Unaji, who actually invented the concept of geometrics in machine, which he has brought into his own local environment in terms of creating industry that is supporting power generation. So we have a lot of them. Even in medicine, you can bring them back. There are doctors who have made innovations elsewhere that are being used. So how do you bring them here so that they can escalate those innovations for our own development?
Okay, now, our quests and our liking and whatever it is, I don't know what word using, coining it, our quest for imported products, foreign product, at what point in time can we start punctuating it? If we say, let's start utilizing our research in producing for Africa, at what point can we say, hey, we stop this, we follow our own? How can we start creating these specific industries? Because if I know that whatever product comes out of my research is going to get to a production line, I won't be looking forward to leaving this country. Now we have issues with those that are left already. But for those that are here, how can we start saying, beyond granting research to go, granting funding to go do a research and have a PhD, or granting funding to go do a research and add only papers to your qualification, can we start looking forward to granting funding or looking for a particular cluster that every research that can get to a product gets to that particular place and the next person takes it up from there?
I think the first way to approach this question, first and foremost, is the fundamentals of the African thinking, which is as a result of the neo-colonial configuration. African leadership must find a way to leave this kind of pigeonhole of the colonial heritage that has often held us down. It's a major challenge until the leadership is able to win herself from these colonial centers of thinking that the answers to our own development lies within Bretton Woods institutions, whether they are in Beijing, whether they are in Washington, whether they are in London, or till we have that mind engineering or a mind shift to be able to recalibrate our thinking process for development, a deliberate development instrument based on indigenous technology and encouragement of local industry will go nowhere. That's number one. Number two, our intellectuals within the university setting must go beyond, like you mentioned, when your research findings are just as essentially based on your ability to move from one level of being a lecturer to a senior lecturer, to a reader, to an associate professor, and a professor, to see how your research finding can be relevant in industry and collaborate more technically with industry and take your research findings and get space within industry. I recall sometime in the past where people leave the institution, they take their wealth of knowledge, they come to industry to work for industry so that you can replicate those knowledge assets and see a way you can impart industry and you go back to the classroom. If we're able to do that, and the third leg of it is government to make it a deliberate policy within the various sectors, within the various ministries, departments, and agencies of government to see how they can collaborate with the sister agencies within each of those ministries has research centers that are dedicated to the peculiarity of those ministry. So they need to consume the findings from those institutions locally, and that will help to bring about development in terms of technology transfer.
Okay, now let's bring this home. Let's bring it home and ask ourselves these direct questions. Now, when you hear of Johns Hopkins University, the first thing that comes to your mind is medicine, because they are associated with different medical centers, different hospitals, from their host country to other countries. When you talk about the one in Texas, the first thing you talk about is NASA. A lot of all these universities are directly linked to research, to not just industries, but groundbreaking institutions. Now let's bring that back home to Africa. Nigeria, for example. 99% of the universities here are, I won't call them citadels, they are institutions offering certificate to a science person, certificate to a management person, certificate to whoever, whatever it is you've studied. Can we start asking ourselves direct questions and tell ourselves if your institution or whatever name you choose to call it is not directly impacting industry or impacting society, then they should go and look for something else to do?
Chuks, it's within your domain to make some assumptions. But we may not be able to sit here and have a one-brush scenario to paint our institutions. There are innovative, groundbreaking research findings from Nigerian universities and institutions.
I agree with you.
There's no gainsay. No,
now,
no.
Where are they impacting? How many of them?
No, the point you're making is that they are setting
over 500
intellectual property. That
of over 500
yeah, they are domiciled in Nigeria that are already working with industry that you may not have, excuse me, that you may not have a knowledge of so many. Okay, innovation.
Why
let's even look at.
We need to start calling ourselves out. But do you agree that we need to start calling ourselves out?
No.
If the universities are not producing.
You have made your point. The point I'm trying to make is that it would be unfair to say that African universities, research centers, and institutions have not made contribution in terms of innovation, creativity that has impacted industry. There are groundbreaking technologies that are being produced here. You see the conversions of converting maize from a liquid object to dry object. These are local here that impacted some manufacturing industry. The list is endless.
From
but then,
how many of the universities?
So many of the universities. So
out of over 500 of them?
There's no problem. In America, you know the number of universities in the US? Even in the 70s, 80s, they were wary of taking, they were wary of taking degrees and certificates from American university, even up to the early 90s. So that is not that's not the point. The point I'm trying to make is we should encourage innovation, creativity, technology transfer. But the point I'm trying to make is that it will be unfair to make a sweeping statement that institutions and research center in Africa has not contributed in terms of innovation and science, particularly STEM. There are industries within Africa. There are local industries that are supported even by indigenous technology. If you go to Aba, for example, if you go to Benin, where they do bronze manufacturing, they have an ecosystem that supports indigenous technology.
From the university there? Or
yeah,
just from
they have relationship with the university. They do. I don't want to mention particular inventions There's a medical scholar from Delta State that innovated on certain concept that you use in modern medicine that is patented to him. It was done with a university in Nigeria. And
as you speak, has it gotten to production line?
It has been used globally.
Okay.
So there are many. There's a young man who won some prize money last year from LNG in terms of a new lateral development for saving children.
Has it gotten to production line?
Yeah, it has gotten to production line.
Okay.
It's been patented. So there are innovation everywhere.
Thank you very much, Mr.
What you may be asking, how do we scale up this innovation?
Yes. Okay, how do we scale up this few? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Sam. It's always a pleasure having you here. For those of you that might not understand, towards the end of the show, we told ourselves some hard truths, some hard facts, and that is what we'll keep telling ourselves. If your university is not directly imparting society and handing out certificates after 3, 4, 5 years, please find something else to do. We need to move Africa forward. We need to get productive. Technology is not handed out on a platter. If the government is not coming to your aid or you don't have an industry very close by, something has to happen. Just like on SOUQ PULSE, we say, don't keep quiet. If you have those innovations and those research coming out from your place, don't keep quiet. If nobody is hearing you, bring it to SOUQ News. We will shout it because we need to move forward. Remember, this is Africa and we all have to play our part. My name is Chuks, John Rogers Chuks, and it's been a pleasure having you today. We'll do this again tomorrow. Bye.